Arc Raider's new arc threat, the Turbine, can be quite a difficult challenge, so I thought I'd put together some little pointers to get you started on bringing down this beast. I'll also go over the cool loot you can get once you've defeated it. Before we can even talk about how to take this thing down, we need to talk about how it spawns, because it's a lot different to normal Arc.
Turbine, up there. A turbine.
It doesn't spawn every single match. In fact, it can sometimes spawn, and it will only spawn between 16 and 13 minutes remaining on a match. What this means is you'll probably want to go to Riventides with the goal of doing something besides fighting it, because there could be a chance it doesn't drop in, and at the 13-minute mark, if it hasn't dropped in, then you can leave and try again. Quick tip though that I learned from the developer that I was playing with when I tested the map early: night raids have a higher chance for it to spawn in. So if you're really struggling to find it, wait for Riventide's night raid to drop on, because that's going to give you a higher chance per match to have the turbine dropping in. Fun fact, you can get multiple turbines drop per match, it just seems to be a lower chance. I've had it once myself where 3 turbines dropped into the game, and that was certainly pretty eventful. So how do we take down these turbines then? What's the best strategy? Well, before we start, you need a really strong arc armor penetration weapon. So we're talking at least something like a Bettina, but ideally a Jupiter or an Equalizer. You're going to need to shred off that armor. We'll talk about Wolfpacks and Deadlines in a little minute. There are 2 different modes for the Turbine. There's the first mode, which is what happens when it's sort of chilling and it's not aggroed. It actually lands and plants itself onto the ground and sets out a minefield all around it. The mines are scattered all over, and they have a 10-meter radius before they start to activate and explode. So you can get within 10 meters of these mines, but any closer and they will explode and do a little bit of damage. Jumping into like 1 or 2 of these isn't much of a threat, and it's not necessarily going to aggro the turbine, and it's not necessarily going to start attacking you if you do get hit by one of these mines. But if you want to get up close to the turbine, you've got to be really careful to watch out for these, because if the turbine suddenly goes into attack mode and you're not prepared, you might try and run to the nearest cover and suddenly walk into a massive stack of these mines and take a lot of damage all at once. Now, why would you want to get close to the turbine? Well, once it's in this landed mode, it has its weak point exposed. It will have 3 yellow canisters protected by some weak arc plating, which can be knocked off with a few shots, and shooting at this will do the most amount of damage possible to the turbine. The trouble is, you've got a very short amount of time to shoot at it before it gets angry, and then it will take off from the ground and fly into the air. And this is where the second mode will activate. Once it's flying in the air, it will just kind of fly all over the place, and if you continue to attack it, it will stay flying. During this attack phase, it's going to throw out this ball, and it will split into 3 separate projectiles. If you get caught anywhere in this radius of the 3 projectiles, it's going to do a massive amount of lightning damage. And it fires pretty fast, so if you are not behind cover at all, you're just going to die. It's going to absolutely destroy you. It only takes 2 attacks for you to be completely killed. 1 attack will completely knock off your shields and take about 50% of your health, and the next one will drop you dead. You do not have enough time to heal up if you get hit from the first attack before the second one comes in. So what that means is if you want to fight this thing, you need to be in cover in a building, ready to take cover once the attacks start raining in. You can't just run around out in the open. It's not going to go well. It's a terrible idea. So there are 2 methods to try and take this thing down. You can either just start shooting at it, and it will go into the attack mode, and you can peek in and out of cover between its attacks to shoot its arc armor plating. This is probably going to be quicker as long as you've got a good enough weapon. If you're going for this strategy, what you're going to need to do is try to focus on one specific arc armor plate and knock that off first. If you just keep firing at the turbine repeatedly without focusing on what you're hitting, you're not going to knock off the arc armor plating. Even with like a Jupiter, it takes so many shots to knock off the armor, and you're not going to be able to have a very successful time bringing this down. Instead, pay attention to as it rotates in the air and try to focus on the same pieces of armor so you can knock off that armor and expose the inner core, and then focus on timing your shots to hit that to do maximum damage, and eventually that will kill it. If you just keep firing at it blindly, it will come down eventually, but it's going to take a lot of time and effort. Sure, if you've got a bunch of players helping you, then that will speed it up, but it's far more efficient to break off some armor plating first and time your shots to hit the inner core. Now, this strategy is probably the best. I would recommend it. You can also throw wolf packs, and that does do a decent amount of damage to it as well, so wolf packs are definitely a nice thing to bring along with you. The other strategy, though, is you basically wait for it to land, you sneak up through the minefield, you get a good solid amount of damage on the weak canisters. It will then go into aggro mode, and then you go and hide in a building for a little minute and wait for it to de-aggro. It won't actually take that long to de-aggro, and then it will just land back on the ground again, and you can get another shot of the weak point. And yes, you can stick a deadline here. It will do about 2000 XP worth of damage, so it's pretty decent for a single deadline. Just bear in mind, you cannot get up to stick the deadline inside the yellow core. At least I haven't found a way to do it yet. So you kind of have to stick it a little bit awkwardly at the bottom of it. Maybe we can find a way to do this. If you try and snap hook on the turbine or try to get too close to it or stick around too long after planting the deadline, it's going to send out its thrusters down below, fly into the air, and you'll get burnt to a crisp. And then it's going to hit out the lightning strike. So if you're going to go for the deadline strat, you've got to make sure you've got a building ready to jump into as soon as possible. The trouble is with doing it this way, of sticking a deadline on it or dealing damage once its weak point is exposed and then waiting for it to reset again and rinsing and repeating, most other players will just start shooting at it wildly. So if you're caught out in the open trying to get a nice shot on its weak spot while someone else is just hiding in a building shooting at it without knowing what you're doing, you're probably going to get killed as it flies in the air. So I'd probably suggest sticking to the first strategy. It's going to be a little longer to kill it in terms of how much resources you need to put into it, and you're going to need to watch out for its attack patterns, but I don't think it's going to be likely you're going to be able to coordinate with the whole server to kill it using its weak point. So just fight it whilst it's in its attack mode, make sure you've got a good building, and don't peek outside when that lightning strike is in the air, because it will destroy you. Once you've killed it, you can run over to the turbine, and you'll be able to loot the new turbine compressor. There's the typical other pieces of ARC stuff in here as well, and there's multiple pieces to loot. There's one guaranteed turbine compressor in the main compartment, which is a big loot piece, and they can have a small chance to drop in these smaller pieces as well. Turbine compressor is needed to craft the new powered descender, which is a really fun new movement item that allows you to, well, get down from height from any situation. It has a limited range. It's going to allow you to drop about 15 meters through the air before touching the ground and running out of fuel. And then it recharges like the typical snap hook and photo cloak would recharge. Now, you could jump off something like the spaceport launch tower and time it so that you start the thruster before you hit the ground, and I'm sure it would allow you to land safely. It's going to need some timing because you only have limited fuel, and you need to kickstart it to get the thruster power built up. If you just activate it right before you hit the ground, you will still take full damage. It's not like really maneuverable. It really does just let you float down to the ground safely, and it doesn't let you to zoom around through the air, but it's still a pretty effective way of dropping down from height, and I'm definitely going to be using this a lot. It's quite a fun piece of equipment. The blueprint for it drops in Riven Tide containers, so just play the Riven Tides map, and the drop rate seems to be fairly commonly. I've already found 3 of them just by looting across the map. You won't have much difficulty finding it. Hopefully this video has been useful. Let me know if you got any of your own tips for fighting the turbine, and I'll see you all in the comments. Cheerio.